What was a binder?
Well, it cut the grain, it went up there, and it put it into a little round deal like this, and tied a string around it. And then you set it out in the field in shocks.
Don't let me forget that.
And let it cure.
My checkbooks in there.
And then they had the thrash machine that would come in, and it set up at the farms, and then all the neighbors would come in. You know, well, we come in, like when they come to our place, all the neighbors would come there. They'd bring their teams and horses and wagons and so forth. All the women would come down and help. We furnished, Mom and Dad would furnish the food. Mom would cook it, but all the ladies would come in and help her. And everybody would go there. You'd have your thrashing day, when it took you 1 day or 2 days.
Thrashing day.
To thrash all your stuff, and then when you
what does the thrasher do?
You just went on to the next farm.
What did the thrasher do?
It thrashed took all of the grain out of the
Oh, okay.
husk.
I see.
And then it cut down into your grain sacks.
Okay. So that's why it had to sit for a while.
Well, that sit really was good because when you first started with your combine, I think even today, they have to run them through a dryer.
Oh.
A lot of the grain is static because there's a certain amount of green.
Oh, green.
Green heads down there. On the old, when you were doing it like we done it, you could cut it a little bit greener if you set it out there, and all that grain cured out.
I got to get up closer here. I'm catching the conversations. That's all right. That's all right. So, you did farming your whole life there? Did you try? You worked at Taylor's Lumber. What did you do at Taylor's?
Well, I was hired as an edgerman to begin with, and then because I'd learned to run an edger with Delmer.
What's
Shaw,
an edger? What is an edger?
When they off at the head rig, when they cut off a great big slab off of the log, it has bark on one side
right
to begin with, bark on the other side. It would come over to the edger, and I would set saws and cut the bark off, and I would cut 2x4s, 2x12s.
Okay, you made them into boards then.
Yeah, I made it into boards.
That's hard work.
And no, that was an easy job.
Really?
Oh,
sounds hard to me.
And you had to know the grade of lumber a little bit. But I always thought it was kind of funny when I went down to get that job put in for Taylor's. Had just built a new mill, and it was one of the first in the country that had a completely automatic head rig in it, where you didn't have a dogger and a ratchet setter riding the carriage. But the Sawyer done everything.
Oh, okay, okay.
And it was really fancy. So anyway, they started up a day shift, and Delmer, which I had learned up there, he was a day Sawyer down there. Neely Smith was off bearer in the daytime, and Arlo Trotter, I don't know whether you remember him or not.
Trotter?
Yeah.
I remember the Trotter name. I went to school with a Trotter girl.
Arlo was the edgerman. Dave Remington was going to be the Sawyer at night.
Remember him?
And Dave came to me, and he wanted me to come down there and put in as for edgerman work behind the head rig. So I went down there, and here's a whole bunch of guys there that had run edger like for Willamina Lumber. So a whole bunch of them there trying to get that job. And all of them, it was, you had to work the chains to bring the stuff over with your feet and so on and so forth. And the edger, you run one side over, you run it over on one side. You had a gang over there, and what they call gang saws, and I could cut 2x4, 2x6 bigger cans. And then on this side, you had adjustable saws to trim it up to set what you wanted to do. So all of this was going on. And so it came up to my turn to try out, and John Taylor was down there. He was watching the whole situation, standing back there saying nothing. And other guys had come in there just seeing how fast they could do all of this stuff. And they wasn't coordinated. Well, I mean, or I shouldn't say they weren't coordinated, but they weren't used to what they were doing. And I going up there, and I asked Arlo, I said, what's the slowest speed this thing has got? I grabbed it and I threw it down on the slowest speed, and I just started running everything, bringing it over, carefully cutting it. And I hadn't run but just a few pieces. Old John Taylor walked out and he slapped me on the back and he said, you got the job, kid. But he knew doggone good and well that I was going to speed up, but I mean, you don't try to do.
Did you? Can I interrupt for a minute?
Yeah.
Did you ask, like, what when he was younger, what his daily chores were and routine, like when he got
No, not yet. Okay, so let's do that
There
then.
was also, did you say anything about the mill that was up at the head of the, because they made their own lumber and stuff up there and had a mill at the head of Deer Creek.
Wasn't there Thompson's mill up there?
Well, there was, but long before Thompson's, Murray or Agee and Daniels had a sawmill up
above
on the
Red
head of
Snyder's?
Gopher up there.
Oh, really?
And that for the old White House that was down there, that was where all of that lumber come from.
They had 9
And
miles of
when
flume
I first,
down through the valley.
as I can remember, they had a flume that went from up there clear down to where Lord McKinley lived.
The big white barn way up.
Yeah.
Past
Yeah.
Growers, that's where Lauren.
Okay, wow.
The first time you cross Deer Creek when you start up Gopher Valley, right there was where the flume ended. And it was all the way down through. Dad talked about when he was a kid, that going up there and riding the stuff down, and then
I
he'd
knew
have to
they'd
walk
do that.
back.
I knew they would do that.
That would be fun.
Yeah, man, that would be.
Yeah, but that'd be quite a walk because that must have been right at 9 miles.
That's right, yeah.
Because I know,
Sometimes it's like this.
Can you imagine that ride though?
but
I tried to walk that before, too.
most all of that
Right.
flume, like it was still standing. Lots of it was still standing. It wasn't using, but still standing as a kid down through our place. Everything. Most of it was built probably about 8 feet in the air, I'd say, where a person on a horseback could ride it under it.
Ah,
And I can remember when a lot of the stuff that we built on their outbuildings and so forth, we'd go down and get pieces, tear down pieces and use pieces out of that old flume.
yeah, I don't think you see it anymore. I don't think there's
no,
any.
It's long gone.
Yeah, it's too bad.
I have
Yeah,
some good
it
pictures
was.
Do you?
I wished I'd have had some pictures of it.
of the mill, but I don't really have any
No,
of the flume going
nothing
down
of the
through.
flume.
That would have been something to see.
Somewhere there must be pictures.
Yeah, there's pictures, but I would have loved to ride that down. That would have
Somebody
been.
had to check on the
Yeah,
condition
they,
of the
they
flume,
you know,
you know,
pieces
They
so
had a person that did
they
that,
would
yeah.
they could get hung up on where they're joining the planks together,
Right.
the sides and so forth. So somebody had to ride or go down there and check that out, because you get one hung up crossways that just keep backing up.
Right. And there'd be a mess.
Yeah,
Then it would really break up.
yeah, they could
Oh.
ruin the whole flume.
Wow. So let's go back to what Mike was saying. Can you tell us what your chores were on a daily basis as a kid?
Well, just normal chores of what goes on in the farm.
what time did you get up?
We got up all over probably 5 o'clock in the morning, such a matter, and get up, and our first deal was always to go out and milk the cows.
And how many cows did you have?
Normally we had around 10.
10 cows? And so how many people were milking?
Oh, at that time, just Dad and I.
Oh my goodness.
And well,
I used to
Dad
milk
was
cows.
a real good milker. I never was a good milker, but that isn't much for a good milker. But anyway, you milk the cows, and then by the time you got done milking the cows and so on and so forth, the chickens were starting to get up and everything. So you fed the chickens and fed the hogs and put the hay down for the horses, and all of this kind of stuff.
All before breakfast.
Huh?
All before breakfast.
Yeah.
All before breakfast.
Then you went in and ate your breakfast.
And what was your breakfast?
Big.
I don't think your breakfast was a full meal. I mean, we'd have, by that time you had really worked up an appetite. We'd darn near always have hot cakes or biscuits. I don't think we hardly ever had a breakfast without gravy and ham or bacon.
God, that's making me
eggs.
hungry. And I bet your mom was a great cook.
Oh yeah, she was a really good cook. But you ate a big breakfast. And then after breakfast, you got up, and then that's when you went out and harnessed the horses and fueled up the tractor, and Dad would always run the tractor. I had to work the horses. And then you go out, you'd work till noon, you'd come in at noon, and normally we had a pretty good lunch for lunch, and then you came in, and we done all of our chores and everything. We didn't eat till late. We done all of our milking and feeding the chickens and all of that sort of thing. Milked the cows, then we came in and ate, and then sat down a few minutes to go to bed.
Tell her about your mother baking the bread when you went to school.
Oh, yeah, Mom always had, back then we always made homemade bread, loaves and rolls and etc.
Yeah.
And it was, when I went, like 8th grade, I went to Sheridan, Proctor School. And I was going in there, and I was so embarrassed having the old homemade bread when all of the rest of the kids down there was eating the
Master bread.
You had the good stuff.
Wonder Bread. Yeah,
You had the good stuff.
and I didn't realize how doggone lucky I was. I thought I was really missing something. I thought I was really embarrassed, I just wonder how many of those kids would have traded with you.
Oh, quite a few of them, but the taste of that homemade bread.
But during the Depression years, families like John's fared pretty well because they never went hungry.
Yeah.
His dad had a little bit of everything, so they had their own milk, they had their own beef and
They helped people out,
eggs,
too.
and he helped out a lot of people
Dad's,
that didn't have.
Dad's favorite saying, I don't know how many times he would say this to me, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And he had a few chickens, he raised a few turkeys, he milked a few cows, he had some, normally about 60 to 100 head of sheep.
Wow.
And we had a few goats, we had some regular beef type animals. Did I mention turkeys? But we raised maybe 30, 40 turkeys or such a matter.
And did you have a big barn?
No,
No?
they just run wild.
Oh, you didn't have a big barn.
Well, yeah, you had a big barn.
Mm-hmm. But the turkeys just ran wild.
The barn was long enough that the one that we built, Dad built over on our original 50 acres. He built one over there. You could had 10 stanchions in it, I think, lengthways.
You could have what?
10
So the
stanchions.
cows had to go in when you milk them?
Where the cows came
They
in
walk
to
their head in.
Really?
milk.
Yeah,
And
did you pull it
then
in?
on the other side of it was where we had our horse stalls and kept our work horses. We didn't have riding horses.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Huh.
You could ride all of our work horses, but we never.
Did you have draft horses or yeah?
They would be considered draft
Mm-hmm.
horses.
Mhm.
John's mother also, you know, they had the eggs, and when she needs something from the store, she could take in eggs and get flour.
I love that.
You know, and so that part worked out well for him too.
The only thing we bought from the stores would be like your flour and salt, sugar,
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Staples.
Staples, but all of your everything else, all your vegetables, fruits, and we raised and canned. Mom had out there. I've tried so hard to remember how big it was. It really seemed to be big, but it had to have been pretty fair size. Probably 10, 12 feet wide and probably 15 feet long, and two sides of it had shelves all the way clear from the roof, clear down to the floor.
Wow.
And that was just filled with.
That's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
In the heat?
They
We
canned their
canned-
meat
you
too
had
because they had
no-
no refrigeration.
Really?
It wasn't until about 41 or such about it that we ever had, before we had electricity.
Springs.
So you canned everything.
She was a busy woman.
Oh yeah.
The only place they had that was cold was the springs, and she had a box in the spring so that she could put
Really?
eggs in to be cool, but there was no electricity in the house. There was no plumbing in the house.
You couldn't keep like ice cream or anything like that.
Yeah, I lived that way for about 3 years, so I know what it's like. It's hard work.
Yeah, it is.
Your food didn't, anything that needed to be refrigerated, you had to eat it that day.
But
It was
like,
gone.
Our pork, we cured all of our own pork.
Oh, you did? Did you have like a
Big
smokehouse?
Big smokehouse.
Wow.
And we smoked all of our hams and
Supper
bacon, all that type of stuff. Any of your beef, we either canned or made corned beef or something like that.
Wow.
You had to put it down. You couldn't.
The only extra
place to-
income that I noticed in Mark, his mother's books, was from shearing. His dad would shear all of those sheep, and he got a pretty good amount of money for the times.
Oh, he sheared other people's sheep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he sheared other people's
Dad
sheep
got
too,
an
but he
awful
sold
lot
his
of
wool too to the
Oh.
sharing, especially the
Yes.
ranchers out that had the sheep running out. We'll say 50 to 100 such about herds, and running out to pasture. And with Dad's dogs, I think they got Dad to share. Not only was a good sheep shearer, but he would bring his dogs and he'd bring them sheep in.
Oh, wow, I see. Okay.
Did he train dogs for other people?
Oh yeah.
He made some money doing that too.
Yeah, that's what, he talked about that earlier.